folks. Mark Normand here with Joke World. Try not to laugh. Woo!
Mark Normand has been a guest on Joke World more than any other comedian with a total of 4 career interviews. Well, 3 if you don't count the time we fucked up the audio. These are the best moments from Mark Normand talking comedy on Joke World. Starting off with our first interview back in 2022 while discussing the closing of the legendary comedy club Caroline's.
Do you have any favorite memories or funny stories from your time working that stage?
Wow. Well, let's see. I remember New Year's Eve one night. It was me, Dan Soder, Michelle Wolf, Gary Veeder, Sam Morrill, Joe. It was like a great group. And Michelle Wolf got so drunk she blacked out. And I think fell asleep in the green room. That was fun. I remember watching I saw Bill Burr there, and he did that special. I can't remember what the name of it is. Maybe Let It Go. But it was sold out. It was before he was huge. And he sold it out, and me and Nate Bargatze went to watch. And it was unreal. He did the whole bit about Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's like, this guy's been killing. He married a Kennedy. He was Mr. Universe. Then he became the governor of a state he can't even pronounce. I can't remember the special that was on, but I got to see it. I got to see his rise. I saw Paul Mooney there. I saw Doug Stanhope there. And he saw Dave Attell in the back. And he goes, Dave, what are you doing here? And Dave Attell goes, well, I heard a white voice coming out of Caroline, so I had to see who it was. They were booking a lot of black acts at the time. Yeah. So, Dave's the funniest guy on the planet. So, yeah, so many great memories. I hooked up with a waitress there years ago. Good times. I'm on the toilet right now because I'm out of time. I'm at a hotel. I'm at a shitbox hotel in Lancaster. My key didn't work, so I went to the front desk, and he was like, oh, you're supposed to be checked out. It's 4 p.m. Okay. So now he's waiting outside my door, and I was like, I just got to take a shit. So he's letting me shit and pack, and then I got to go find somewhere to shower. But this is the road, folks.
I saw you mention on Chrissy Chaos that Netflix gives you like a certain amount of money, basically, and then you have to decide how much to spend on producing the special, then how much to keep. Is that kind of right? Yeah.
It's kind of a shit deal, but they're smart businessmen because they know we want to be on Netflix. So they give you a couple bucks. You got to shoot it, edit it, promote it, all the stuff they used to do. And then you own it in 2 years. That's the big catch. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, because I was thinking, based on what you see in podcasts and things, it seems like the ongoing joke about you amongst your peers is that you're very money conscious. I think Shane Gillis was the one talking about you eating like the random leftovers on the Tuesdays with Stories Live. So is it hard for you to make these huge financial decisions for something like that's so expensive, like producing a Netflix quality special, or was this just different than your personal life? You just got to get it done.
Well, that's a great question there, Fatty. But the real problem is I'm cool with buying big. I bought a brownstone in Brooklyn. I bought a BMW, a vintage car, which was a huge money suck. But I'm not good at buying stuff for me, like a smoothie or new underwear.
That makes sense.
But the special, it's a big thing. So, yeah, I can splurge. I want all out because I want it to be good. You know, it's going to last forever. You put a lot of work into it. So, yeah, I swung for the fences on that.
Part of what's so interesting about seeing the sausage gets made is how you avoid bombing even when the joke doesn't work, if that makes sense. As someone who tries a lot of new stuff, are there built-in defense mechanisms that you use to make even a bomb funny for the audience?
Sure. Well, as you know, comedy comes from tension. So when you're bombing, it's tense. So all you got to do is just acknowledge it, and it'll cut the tension, which is in itself funny. So, you know, after you bomb so many times, I've been doing comedy for a long time. So you kind of know how to veer out of it. And it's like a skid. You gotta lean into it. It's the only way out. So, yeah, you can make that funny, too. But it's not the goal. You want the bit to work, ultimately.
That makes sense. But I'm sure it still feels good to get laughs because sometimes being at shows, that's the funniest thing as an audience member is when they're like, all right, that one sucked or whatever, you know, cross it out.
Yeah, it's kind of endearing.
But how do you know when a premise has been tried from every angle and worked out enough and you're like, I'm going to give up on this one or I should continue to toil with it?
I think you can feel it. That's where the comedy bones come in. You can kind of feel it when like, you know, I like this idea, but it's just maybe more interesting than funny. So I just got to drop it. But sometimes I've had jokes where I'm like, I'm bombing with this joke, but I know there's something there. So it's really, it's down deep in the butthole. You can really feel that tingle or not. But hey, we're not always right. So that's why you got to do so much trial and error.
Is it easier to get that feeling when you know you should throw something away versus when it's funny enough to stop working on it?
Yeah. I think the feeling of when it's funny enough to keep going is the strongest. But sometimes you just got to listen to the crowd and stop humiliating yourself and just drop the goddamn thing. But you can also put it in your back pocket. Maybe in 2 years, try it again.
Yeah. Speaking of the crowds, do the people at these shows in the city know that you're on the lineup beforehand? And is there a difference in how much you trust a reaction to a new joke if it's told in front of your crowd versus a random audience?
Wow, good question. See, that's why you're the guy. It's a very smart question there. You want both. So I with the Comedy Cellar, I usually do it unannounced. I don't know why. I like it better that way. And at the other clubs, I usually announce. Okay. So sometimes you need your people to kind of boost you along and like kind of hold your hand. Like, I trust you. I'll stay with you. Mm-hmm. And then you also need the other crowd to go, we don't know you. We don't give a shit. It's either funny or not funny. So both are useful.
You were early on the YouTube wave for comedians putting on full specials to their own channels. Was there any hesitancy to go with Netflix this time after seeing just how perfectly it worked on YouTube last time? Or was it always a goal to have a full-length 50-minute special, hour special on Netflix regardless?
Another great question, boy. You know your comedy biz.
I try.
Yeah, it's great. It's great having a guy on the other side because all the comedians know all this shit. Then you can't talk to anybody about it who's not a comedian. But you're a nerd like us. Basically, I love YouTube. YouTube is great. It's great for comedy. These gatekeepers suck. It's a business at the end of the day. So they got no balls. They don't want to take a risk on a guy or a gal or a non-binary. But I think I got the YouTube crowd. I feel like I won that fight. And then I'm like, let me see if I can win the Netflix crowd. And I'll own it in 2 years anyway, so I can just put it on YouTube. Oh. So it's a win-win, and you get a couple bucks. Yeah. So I figure, hey, let's mix it up, and I get it back anyway.
When you're in the back seat of these cars going from show to show, discussing your jokes in the back, do the drivers ever turn around kind of confused, like, why is this guy talking about the difference between eating versus fucking animals in my car?
All the time. I've got some real weird looks from guys named Muhammad who are like, what the hell is this guy all about? But hey, I live in New York City, so there's probably a guy jerking off back there anyway.
Well, one of the funniest parts of Page the Stage was the show that you did on the 13th floor of some office building that you showed up a week early and then ending up testing material out on the door guy. My question is, did you actually get those dates wrong, or was that a page out of Larry's playbook showing up the wrong night on purpose?
Well, as you can see with the Zoom, I fucked up the timing of this, so it's real. I have no scheduling abilities. I can barely book a flight. I'm a tard. So that was real. And my camera guy was like, you should just try it on the door guy. And that door guy was just some bitter, sad loser dude who, nobody talks to. So he was willing to hear it, and he hated it. So that was comedy gold.
Well, I have a few more questions for you here, then we'll get you out of here. Thank you so much for your time today, Mark. Comedy's going through a huge boom right now in general. We just saw all this happen with Netflix. It seems like it can't get any bigger. What are your thoughts on all of this trending upwards? Are you scared of a drop? Do you think it's going to keep going exponentially? What are your thoughts on how big comedy's gotten?
It's wild. I mean, did you see that thing that came out? It showed a graph of the comedy sales over the last few years, and it just 2023 was just like through the moon. I think it worries me because I love it. I'm having so much fun, and we're selling tickets, and people give a shit, and there's so many more opportunities and all that, but I'm scared it'll go away. So much like any cynical comedian, I can't enjoy the good part. But I'm worried it'll go away, but I talked to other comics who are doing arenas, and they're like, nah, it's here to stay. It's just, this is how it is now. So I guess it's here to stay, and I hope they're right. But it's pretty great. I'm very grateful, and I'm very aware of how lucky we are. Yeah,
the crazy thing about that graph, I was talking to someone who pointed out Taylor Swift's tour still made more than the entire industry, which is mind-blowing.
You can find our 2 most recent interviews with Kevin Hart on the end screen right after this. And thanks to your support, hopefully there will be many more interviews to come. Just make sure you're subscribed to Clip World right now. It's our 2nd channel, so if you think you're subscribed to Joke World, check again for Clip World. But thank you for watching. We're really doing it. Comedy.
Joke World. He's the fucking man, dude.
If y'all ain't fucking with Joke World, who are you fucking with?
Joke World, can you please clip him saying that Liana is actually ugly, please?
No,
Joke World.
she's very hilarious. Clearly very pretty.